Hey guys, joined beside me is Senior Vice President of Marketing at Regions, Bret Pippen. Bret, thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome in.
Well, thanks, Ford. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
So my boss came to me, and by came to me, I mean he called me right after he heard your story and said, you've got to have this guy on the air. You have got to talk to Bret Pippen. He is a stud. He's a great storyteller, and he is a person that you need to relate with, and you need to reach out to him, hear his story, hear what he has to offer. And as soon as I heard that, it clicked with me. We got to sit down with Bret Pippen. So, Bret, what makes you so special outside of the story you're about to tell us? I mean, what makes Bret? You know, you told me about your kids, your daughter's in Auburn. You said you're chomping at the bits to retirement. Not coming up yet, though.
No.
But you're getting there, right? But what makes Bret Pippen?
Well, first off, I'm not a stud. I put that. What makes Bret Pippen? That's a good question. I think I'm very much a family man. As a matter of fact, my wife and I are celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary this weekend.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're leaving in the morning to go to Tennessee to celebrate that. I love my kids. I love my family. I love my job. I've been very blessed with a lot of the things that have been given to me. And I enjoy giving back to the community. I'm very involved with my church. Those are the things that make Bret Pippen up. Family, faith, and work, really, at the end of the day.
You told me you started out in your career as a journalist.
That's correct.
And when you meet a journalist, they are just different types of people, right? They like to get to the bottom of stuff. They like to write.
Yes.
And so that's got to make up a little bit of you as well.
It is. And I think part of when I started out in the newspaper business, and I did a little, as I said, I worked at small newspapers, and so I did a little bit of everything. I sold ads, I did classifieds, I did layout, I helped do the press, I threw papers, I was editor and publisher. I mean, I did a little bit of everything at a small paper. You do it all. Cover county commission stuff. I used to I kept a scanner by the bed. These are old school days. I kept a scanner, go ambulance chasing, all that kind of stuff.
Did you ride your bike down the road and throw the papers out too?
Exactly, yeah, absolutely.
So what is this story that everybody keeps telling me about? You got to hear Bret Pippen's story.
Well, I guess it's at the end of the day, the story for me, the reason I even tell the story is it's less about, I would never presume to preach to anyone, but it's more of a story about how we all get super duper busy and we forget the humanity of people. And and that sounds more negative than I intended to be, but when you hear the story, it'll make more sense. But I get so busy in my life, looking down at my mobile device or worrying about getting to meetings or worrying about things I've got to do that I forget to take time and just talk to people and care about people. And I just think it's all about the slowing down a little bit, looking up from your mobile device, looking up from your busy life, and realizing that there are other people who are working through this world as well, who may need a little caring or just need a kind voice or just somebody to talk to.
Yeah, maybe just somebody in the elevator who, instead of looking down at your cell phone the whole time, you reach out to them and say, hey, buddy, how's your day going?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Or how long is it going to take for you to get home? I find that just small conversation with people puts a smile on their face.
Yeah.
And to me, someone who I feel like I smile more than maybe the average person,
Sure.
to make other people smile, that's one of my goals, you know? And so I heard a little bit about this story, but it sounds like you made a lot of people smile.
Well, I think I made some folks smile. It's a sad story because there's some tragedy in it, but I think I don't know. I got a lot of interesting comments after I told the story at ARC Stories. I got a lot of interesting feedback from people, folks saying, "Man, that was great," and then I had one person say, "That was great." Not the story was sad, but it was great. You know, that kind of stuff. So I mean, the thing about the whole deal is I'm a natural introvert. So I'm not used to just making small talk with people. Yeah. And so I kind of have to get to know you.
You did a pretty good job with me in the lobby, though. I'll give you that. I mean, to meet me. And I'm a little bit abrasive sometimes. I'll give it to you. But
it's just, I enjoy talking to folks. It's just I'm not the best person in the world for small talk. So, yeah.
So you were walking up to your office one day at work. You got on the elevator. You got out of your car. Where did this happen? Where did it start?
So it started with it starts with a relationship. So where I work downtown at Regions Center, So I work on the 5th floor. I come down, go to the lobby and you go out. When you come off the elevator, you go toward the doors that lead out to Chick-fil-A, because all roads lead to Chick-fil-A.
They, at the end of the day, except for Sunday.
Except for Sunday. But you don't go out the doors. You turn right, because I'm going to the snack shop, which I go to too often, I'll be honest. But I was going to the snack shop.
Don't we all, though?
And there's a place right there. It's a shoe shine place. And the guy that runs it is a guy named Esquire. So Esquire runs the shoe shine place. And the number of times I go through there, he and I have just gotten to know each other. As I said, I've been at Regions for 20 years, and I think I've known him ever since I was at AmSouth, and ever since he's been downtown doing the shoe shine thing, just saying hey and, bumping fists or whatever, getting my shoe shined. And what I like about Esquire and what I've always appreciated about him is he's such a hopeful person, very optimistic. If this afternoon's going to be better than this morning. Tomorrow's going to be better than today. Next week's going to be better than this week. He's always very very inspirational. And so I would sit, and sometimes he'd shine my shoes, and I enjoyed, he takes real pride in shoes, in taking, it's an art to making the shoe shine properly. And he'll repair shoes, and he can shine them while you're sitting there or whatever. And he has the stand where you sit up in the stand and you put your feet up on the little brass stands or whatever. And
it's fancy,
yeah, it's nice. And we just talk. And even if he's not shining shoes, I'll just come by and say hey and, whatever. And so he and I have been having this relationship off and on for a while. And then he also runs a shoe shine area over at Alabama Power. And so what would happen is he'd end up over there. Well, he started having his son come to the shoe shine shop in Region Center. And his son's name's Jamal. So same thing. So I would come down, go to the snack shop, of course, and see Jamal. And Jamal and I started talking to each other. And when Jamal started, he was probably about 23 or so, like that. And so Jamal and I sort of struck up a conversation. Now, Jamal's not completely like his dad. And I always got kind of the impression that Jamal was still trying to find his place in the world, kind of where he was going to end up. And so he would ask me for marketing advice on how to generate more business for the shoe shine shop. We would talk about, football and, the normal stuff that folks in Alabama talk about. And
Roll Tide.
Yeah, well, War Eagle. And what's funny about that is I was telling this story to somebody, or just talking about Jamal, and somebody asked me, well, what do you talk to Jamal about? And I said, well, mostly we talk about football. And the person looked at me and said, well, what do you do when it's not football season? And I said, you're not from here, are you? Because it's never not football season here. So
because we're engulfed in it 24/7. Yeah, did you see Alabama's big announcement today?
No, I didn't. What was the big announcement today?
Over the next 10 years, $600 million facilities that they're going to be upgrading, things like that.
Excellent. Where are they going to find that money?
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I know it's hard for Alabama.
And they're paying Nick Saban more money. It's like, I don't know where they're going to get it from. I have to start charging the students more.
I hate that. But yeah, so Jamal and I would just kind of strike up a conversation, and it's the same thing. He would shine the shoes and do all those sorts of things, and we'd talk and all that kind of stuff. And so I just got to know him over the years, and I think, however long it was. Well, one day, I just happened to be coming down, again, going to the snack shop, and I turned the corner, and Esquire's doing his normal thing, shining the shoe, and he stops me. And he puts his hand out, and he stops me, and I said, yeah, what's going on? He said, hey, I just want to thank you. I said, for what? And he said, well, I just want to thank you for talking to my son, taking time to talk to my son. He said, he's, provide him, others who talk to him like you, provide him with a good role model to see somebody who's working hard, loves their family. As I said, I've got 2 daughters, and just, you're just I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to my son. And I said, well, Esquire, you don't owe me thanks for that. If anything, I need to thank Esquire because he's such a good guy.
Yeah.
And I said, I really appreciate that, Esquire, but I'm flattered and I have no problem talking to him all. He said, well, thank you, and I really appreciate it. So that was that, and so went on about my business, and, you get caught up in the day. So later on, so this was probably about, for a couple of months ago. It'd be 3 or 4 months ago. So I'm coming down, and I'm going to the snack shop again, and there's a sign in front of the shoe shine shop that says closed indefinitely. Call this number for any kind of questions. And the number is to the building maintenance management group or whatever. So I walk on past there, and I go into the snack shop, and Jenny's in there. Jenny's somebody I know, too, who works in the snack shop. And I get my Diet Coke and my peanuts or whatever it is, and
and Jenny and I are kind of just talking back and forth. Oh, by the way, I said, I saw the son. I said, what's up with Esquire? What's going on with the shoe shine shop? And she goes, you haven't heard? I said, no, I hadn't heard. And she said, Jamal was killed this morning. And I said, killed? I mean, like car wreck or something like that? She said, no, somebody walked up to him and shot him and killed him. And so I was like, I mean, how do you process that? Here's a guy that I've gotten to know his father over the years, gotten to know Jamal. He was 29 when he was killed. Gotten to know Jamal over a 6 or 7 year period. And I just didn't know. I mean, I don't know. It was weird. And the weird thing about it was when I left, it's not that I didn't believe her. It's like you needed proof, right? So I went back up to my office and I pulled up AL.com and did a quick search for it, and I just missed it. And it's right there on AL.com, and it's his name and his age and some of the circumstances around it. And it just became real. And it was hard for me to focus that day. It was just a surreal day.
Well, we can imagine why it was so hard.
I mean, it's just odd. And so I go on about my business. That's the thing, right? So this happens, and then the world continues to turn. And so I'm, go back to work, and I do the things that I do. And so I'm coming down every day, and I don't see, the signs up. So one day in particular, this is probably 2 or 3 weeks later, it is one of those classic Regions days where it is meetings, I mean, wall to wall. From 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. I've got stuff to do, people to see, T's to cross, I's to dot. I just got folks. I mean, I've got it going on. I got important people I got to be talking to. I'm an important person. I got things to do. And so I'm just hammered. And so I'm looking at my schedule, and I realize there's no time for lunch in there at all. And so and as you've already tell, eating's very important to me. And so as it worked out, right before lunch, I had this gap of about 10 or 15 minutes because the one meeting ended early. And I thought, okay, great. I'm going to rush down to Miss Edie's place, get me some peanuts and a Diet Coke, rush right back up and, have that for the next meeting, so get something to tide me over. And so I'm in a super hurry. I get to the elevator, and I go down, and in my mind, I'm focused on what I got to do because I've got to get to this, because this meeting, I played a role in the meeting, so I needed to get back, get that done. And so right when I turn the corner, I see Esquire. Esquire's sitting in his chair. I described the shoe shine chair. So he's sitting in his shoe shine chair, and he's got a shoe in one hand and a rag in the other. And so I'm walking up, and I stopped, and I'll have to be honest, my first thought was, oh no.
Not today.
Not today. I don't have time for this today. I don't have time. I know the right thing to do, but I'm just too busy. I've got too many meetings. I got too much stuff to do. I've got too many things going on in my mind. I just got more important things to do. And so my thought was, well, okay, I'm going to put my head down. I'm just going to walk on by, get done what I need to get done, and maybe say hey or something like that, and then head on back upstairs. Well, in the seconds that it took for me to kind of process all this, he looked up, and he and I locked eyes. And I said, okay. So I walked up to him, and as I got closer, I could tell he was crying.
Yeah.
And when I got really close to him, and he's in that chair, he dropped the shoe and he drops the rag and he falls into my arms. And he wraps his arms around me, and I wrap my arms around him instinctively, and he's just rocking back and forth. They killed my boy. They killed my boy. They killed my boy. I mean,
how could you respond to that?
I mean, I don't know. There's no words, right? So I just held him, and I told him I loved him, told him I was praying for him, and told him I was here for him. But other than that, I didn't say anything. And we just walked. And it's one of those moments where you're in this moment, and you have no idea how long you're there. You just kind of lose track of time or whatever. Yeah. And then we finally, sort of broke the embrace. And I turned and looked, and there was a line of people, probably, 6, 8 people waiting to come to the shoe shine shop. And my initial reaction was, well, they're waiting to get the shoe shined, and I'm holding up the line or whatever. So I stepped down, told him one more time that I loved him, I'd be praying for him, and the tears are just streaming. And I come down and I look. Well, what they were all waiting to do was not get the shoe shined, but to come console him, to do exactly what I was doing. Give him a hug, tell him they're thinking about him, all that whole thing.
So there were that many people in that building that made the same connection with him.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And these are people who either worked for regions or people who worked in and around regions like Esquire. So you have other folks, it's just a whole different eclectic group of people who are waiting to say hey to him. And it's one of those moments where I can remember us just thinking about it afterwards. That's one meeting that I'm really glad I missed.
Yeah.
Because it gave me an opportunity to do the right thing, take the time to talk to Esquire and comfort him. And I've seen him since then 2 or 3 times, several times. And it's just a different, it reminded me of there are things more important than a meeting. So.
Do you even remember what the meeting was about?
Absolutely not.
Who it was with or anything?
Absolutely not.
But
as you can tell, the bank stayed open.
Yeah.
So and so
you mean the banks?
Yeah,
with an S.
Absolutely. And so it's one of those things where you take the time, you spend the time with somebody like that, and you walk away a better person for it. Not because of anything that you did, but because of doing the right thing at the end of the day. Doing the right thing for Esquire doing the right thing, and everybody doing the right thing.
Is that story, to me, feels so eye-opening. I mean, not just to me, but the people who will listen to this as well and think, you know what, I need to take a little more time in my day and be nice to the people around me.
Well, it's funny. It seems obvious. Like, we all stand, like, I can't tell you the number of times. I teach a fair amount of Sunday school, and so I can't tell you the number of times where I've spoken to people and talked to people about, stop, slow down, count your blessings, all that normal stuff that you hear. But I'm my own worst enemy.
Yeah.
Because I get, sometimes things just you get so busy, or what you think is busy in your life, that you forget people, and you forget your humanity, and you forget other people's humanity, and you just need to take the time to do that. And like I say, I do not presume to preach to you or anybody else. This is more for me as much as anything, just reminding, just a stark reminder that there's things more important than meetings at the end of the day.
Goodness gracious. It's such a heavy story, but it really does remind you of, everything that, people go through every day that you know what I mean? When you walk by somebody, you don't know what they've been through or what they're going through, and just your action taking time to get to know Esquire and then get to know his son and then finding out what happened. I bet your stomach just sank when you saw that headline.
Oh, I mean, it's awful. But I mean, the thing about it is, and you're saying me taking the time to get to know Esquire, I think part of Esquire's gift is he takes the time to get to know people.
Yeah, because he could sit there and
he could just shine shoes and not say a word to anybody. But that's not what he does. And I've seen he takes the time to show people that he cares both about them and what they're asking him to do. He takes great pride in his work, and he takes great pride in building those relationships with people. And it's I think it shows, and that's part of the reason he's so. I think that's part of the reason why he's so optimistic about. I just think he sees the good in people at the end. Even after the tragedy, I've seen him since. Now it took, obviously it's going to be extremely painful, and it still is painful. And he and I have never sat down and really talked about it in any way. But he still is Esquire. I see him, and he's optimistic, and he's shining shoes, and he's taking care of business.
So how long ago did all this happen?
Ford, I want to say probably March, April time frame.
So it's recent.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
what made you want to go out and tell this story? What was your initial thought when you say, okay, I have a really interesting story that'll make other people open their eyes?
Yeah, I think it was just, well, like I said, the ARC stories, they have a theme, and the theme was at work or on the clock. And this, to me, is a unique story. It wasn't about work, it wasn't a funny story about work. It was a story that if I had not been working at Regions, I would never have met Esquire.
Yeah.
And so it's those two things. And then I also think it's a good story. To me, there's tremendous tragedy in it, but I do think there is something to pull out of it in terms of if I were going to put a and I told this story in Sunday school. I think you put your finger on it. It's a good reminder that we just need to remember that we're all people, and they just need to put it bluntly, we just need to give a damn about other folks.
Yeah.
And I just think sometimes we get so busy, hung up with what we believe or think or don't think or whatever, or we're just busy, or we think we're busy, that we just don't take time to stop and show other people that we care.
Yeah. You're worried about going to the gym. You're worried about getting to dinner on time. And, you're worried about your family, which like everybody is,
Sure.
But taking the time to, just talk to somebody who's, working on the pipes in your office, or, the electrician, or maybe the guy who cleans your office or something like that. I mean, taking the time to reach out to other people. I know for me, it's eye-opening, and I can't thank you enough for coming on here and sharing your story.
Well, I appreciate you giving me the forum to do it. Thank you.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah,
it'll be on radio, be on video as well. Thank you so much, Bret, for joining the Ford faction. We'll talk to you soon, I promise, okay?
Thanks, Ford.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
Man.